Okay, so Google's not the first organization to give out data awards and how to use data for community change. We've been giving out Data Day awards. I think this is the second time we've given them out. And in particular, we like to highlight, as I did earlier with Kathy Ludgate, organizations, individuals, government agencies, or community groups who show us and are exemplary in their use of data to drive community change, especially in the public's interest. The individuals we recognize this year have made a tremendous impact on the Commonwealth's data infrastructure, seeing the importance of technical issues in data collection, sharing, and analysis. And I'm just checking if all of our awardees here. Is Josh Robin here?
Yeah, Josh is here.
Okay, maybe someone could send him in. And to present those awards will be Joel Barrera, who's the Deputy Director at MAPC. And I mentioned earlier that I was so grateful that he and Mark both have shared our vision. But Joel works with the government, what is the name of your department?
Government Affairs.
Government Affairs, sorry. The Government Affairs Department at MAPC, and also runs a leadership program called the, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to introduce you. The Commonwealth Seminar. Joel, sorry, I wasn't prepared to introduce you.
Well, thank you all for being here. And you know, we just saw an impressive demonstration of a new tool that's going to be available to you. But a tool without the data would be nothing. And so really kind of the next few moments, we want to celebrate some people who are really champions for creating and sharing data in the public service. And so we you know, this was a very difficult piece. This whole area is very vibrant. It was very hard to narrow this list down. But together with the Boston Foundation and the other partners, we selected a number of people that this past year and in their careers have really kind of focused on sharing information with the public. The first person we'd like to recognize is Registrar Rachel Kaprielian. And as Registrar of the MassDOT's RMV, during a very difficult financial time, at a time when we've had to make financial cutbacks and service cutbacks, Rachel has led in a number of different ways in terms of innovation, online service, customer service. And you know, what we're recognizing her today for is one action in particular that she's taken with WEAVE, with MAPC, which is to allow researchers access to the registry's vehicle inspection database. So every car, the mileage, the inspections, the make, models, etc., we now have in our possession with a whole series of safeguards for privacy. And with that information, we're going to know more than we ever have about how people travel, how neighborhood design shapes the lives of folks, climate change, a whole series of questions. And none of that would have been possible without the registrar's leadership in sharing that data with us and through us to the public. And so today we'd like to first bring up Rachel Kaprielian, who I should also mention is a former state representative from Watertown. And she is she has a long track record of reform. We were very fortunate to work with her early on municipal health insurance issues and a whole wide assortment of issues. I consider her a personal friend. Please, Rachel, come on up and accept our award as Data Champion.
Thank you.
We'll take a photo of it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Okay. Picture first? Yes. That's fine. Thank you. That's the first thing I want to say. And thanks to Joel Barrera. We do go back a long way, and it is true. We were at the same meeting, I think, every month for about 2 years. Till finally we did break the logjam on municipal health insurance, and that is really something that we're very proud of and that continues to pay dividends. You know, it's interesting when someone calls you and they say, we'd like to give the Registry of Motor Vehicles an award. My first response is, everybody hates the Registry of Motor Vehicles. That said, that is not really true anymore. We are not your grandfather's RMV. How many of you are licensed drivers or have a car registered in Massachusetts? How many of you have done your transaction online? All right, that's what I'm talking about. That is why we're not your grandfather's RMV anymore. When I got my driver's license in the fall of 1984, I had to take the day off from school. I had to wait in an internal line, and it took me about 2 hours, and I had to, I think I had to do 3 different lines for 3 different transactions. That is the image of the past. That is not the RMV that you see today, not in our branches and not online. And that is something that we continue to think of new and innovative ways to bring people to our website instead of to our brick and mortar branches. Since I walked in the door about 3.5 years ago, we have added more than 24 transactions online. We went from doing 1.7 million transactions a year to 2.5 last year to 2.9 now. It is quickly approaching the number of branch visits that we do. We're getting very, very close to where, and my goal before I'm done in this seat is to have more transactions done online than are done in a branch. And that's a good goal, because more and more people, once you do your transaction online, my question to you ever gonna go back? It speaks for itself. And this way we're able to shrink the size of our operating budget, we're able to shrink the size of our staff. The registry's high watermark in about 10 years ago was about 1,000 employees and a budget of about $80 million. Now our budget is hovering in the high $60 million, well $68 million, not counting IT, which is more like $63 million, and a head count of about 800. So that's with more licensed drivers and more registration. And the delta is the internet. The internet has changed the way we do things. And that said, we also can do more innovative things when we show our data to geniuses that can come up with more innovative ways to come up with different data-driven projects to save dollars, to promote efficiency, and to make the experience of the customer number one. We're also at the advent of what I will call new ALARs, an automated licensing and registration system. That is our mainframe. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 25 years old. It went into service the year I was a senior at Watertown High School. And it is COBOL-based. Anybody remember COBOL? Yeah, okay. If you want someone to fix COBOL, I'm not sure the bottom age, I don't know. I mean, I think you find people like who were in their 50s and 60s that was sort of the, what they did. It is not what we do now. That said, it is robust. We still do 6 million hits per day on old ALARs, but it has reached the end of its natural life. So here we are at the advent of building new ALARs. And to think that we can do a registration or license renewal on one of these. You can dream it, you can build it. And we want the ideas of the customers, of the users, of our partners, of municipalities, of insurance companies, of auto dealers, anyone who uses our services on a regular basis or a not so regular basis. How can we make it a system that is better to the users? Because I tell all the IT geniuses who are now beginning to onboard on the new ALARs project, what you need to see behind your head every single day when you walk into work, customer first. I don't care how cool it is if my great uncle Fred can't do his transaction easily. I don't care how cool it is if it doesn't mean that it's going to make our branch wait time when you have to go to a branch that much smarter and more efficient and intuitive to our workers and to the users. So those of you who can think up some of those great ideas, bring it to us because we will pass it along. And we are saying that from a business point of view. How can you think of it to be used better, smarter, faster? And I thank you for your innovation. I thank you for this honor. And I look forward to working with you with a new and better RMV each and every day.
The next person we'd like to recognize is Joshua Robin with our Excellence in Information Infrastructure. Joshua is the Director of Innovation at the MBTA and Policy Aid for the Executive Office of Transportation. In these roles, he leads the MassDOT's award-winning Developers Initiative and other initiatives focused on getting drivers and riders timely and accurate information about the transportation system. Through the Developers Initiative, MassDOT has open data on public transportation routes, schedules, and services. This includes real-time arrival data for MBTA buses, red, orange, and blue subway lines, and the commuter rail. Thanks to the work of MassDOT's Developer Initiative, dozens of apps, websites, and other services featuring this data have been created at a minimal cost to taxpayers. This initiative has developed Massachusetts is a national leader in Government 2.0 movement and improved the quality of life of tens of thousands of Massachusetts residents and visitors. In addition, we are happy to note that Josh graduated from Northeastern University in 2009 with a bachelor's in political science. And I know that I have in my smartphone the Pocket MBTA, and that's directly a result of the kind of work that Josh is doing.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you so much to MAPC for hosting this and giving us this award and really being such a strong supporter of open data and everything that we've done for the last couple of years. And I just want to say a quick word about the initiative. Over the last probably 2 years, our open data effort at MassDOT and the MBTA has allowed us to really revolutionize the way customers ride the bus here in Boston. Riding the bus always meant kind of leaning over and hoping on a day like today the bus would show up. And by opening up our data, we kind of unleashed the power of a lot of citizens and civic hackers to make riding the system easier and to create all those great ideas they had about bus apps and countdown tools and tools that answer the question, where's the bus or where's the T? And so, I think this initiative has shown that it is possible for citizens really to actively transform government. And technology is a great way to do it. And the registrar and I are both tremendously lucky to have a boss and someone like Secretary Davey who's wildly supportive of these efforts. And on that note, I just want to highlight one of the next things we're doing. One of our goals going forward is to bring different sets of data together. And to that end, we've launched a challenge for MBTA and Hubway data, and that challenge has a number of components. The first is an app that brings together MBTA and Hubway data, because public transit and bike share really fit together. The second is a challenge to visualize what a day in the life of Hubway looks like and the MBTA to show the connections our transportation system has. And then we included some cool challenge about food trucks in there. So go to mbta.com/developers, find out about our data and those contests, and if you can build a cool app with that data, you'll be eligible to win a 1-year free Charlie card. So anyway, thanks again to MAPC, and we appreciate everything you do around opening up data.
In order for this to work, we need state leaders, but we also need community leaders. And, we wanted to recognize with our excellence in capturing local knowledge, Singh Khalsa, who is the executive director of the Mystic River Watershed Association. Also serves, by the way, on our steering committee for sustainable communities, and we recognize his role in that. At the Mystic River Watershed Association, he oversees the organization's mission to protect and restore the Mystic River, which includes a wide range of public outreach, scientific monitoring, research, and public advocacy. Facing a lack of hard data about water quality in the river, he and his staff launched the Mystic Monitoring Network in 2000. Through this program, a team of trained volunteer citizen scientists collects data on a range of water quality indicators at locations throughout the Mystic River watershed. This data has enabled the group to produce baseline reports tracking water quality in the river across a 10-year period. Made available through printed reports and an innovative online map, this project combines scientific rigor with local knowledge and participation to protect public health and guide restoration of an important natural resource. So congratulations, and come on up.
Thank you, Joel, for your kind words. I actually prepared just a brief remark so that I receive this appropriately. I am a very recent newcomer to the Mystic River Watershed Association, and indeed we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. So 40 years of advocacy by a nonprofit group that for much of its history really was organized and the work was executed by volunteers. And that continues to be the culture we follow to this day. So I wanted to say I would like to accept this award on behalf of all the members, staff, and volunteers who have worked for the Mystic River Watershed Association so faithfully and diligently for the past 40 years. In 2012, the Watershed Association will celebrate 40 years of service, and for much of its history, a great deal of the work has been carried out by passionate local residents and activists. Scientific data and its use to support restoration and protection of the natural environment has been, as this award attests, a key element of the association's mission and approach, and remains a central part of the work we undertake today. I thought it was noteworthy that the very first objective of our strategic plan for 2012-2013 is use science to develop a clear understanding of watershed health and the causes of impairment in order to restore and protect the physical, chemical, and biological integrity of the Mystic River and its tributaries. And this is really what we've undertaken to do. Not too long ago, regional policymakers and local decision leaders were concerned that there was not a good reason to invest in local infrastructure. The concern was that the water quality in the Mystic River watershed as a whole was so poor and that that condition was so intractable that the money would not be well spent. At that time, MIRA initiated what is now its 10-year water quality monitoring program. And what this monitoring program demonstrated was that every month and throughout the year, there were times, many times in fact, when the Mystic River and its tributaries ran clean and free of pollution. And this information has inspired and encouraged municipal leaders and regional decision makers that indeed it is worth spending money to restore water quality in this really important Boston region. Our work in recent years with MAPC and in particular with Holly St. Clair and her brilliant staff has amplified our ability to organize and deploy the data we collect to create positive change in our local environment. A lot of the work that you see on our website, the work that was referred to, the electronic environmental atlas that we created to create a location for all of this data was indeed the work of Holly and her staff. What's interesting about this is that now, because of the hard work of MIRA's staff and its volunteers, the data that we have collected is very well respected and our work is considered to be reliable. So reliable, in fact, that the US EPA considers MIRA's data to be the same as its own data. And it has used this data to enforce compliance with federal regulations in several, I would say many, very important cases in the Mystic River watershed. So it shows that dedicated local citizens concerned about a problem in their neighborhood can develop very important data sets that, when applied, make a big difference in terms of the outcome in their area. I think it also says that it takes time. This does not happen overnight, and it takes courageous decision makers to use the data in a way that makes a difference and promotes change. I recognize that His Honor will be following me to the podium, and I want to say that the mayor's approach and the decisions he makes are the most important component of the final outcome of all this data. We can collect a lot of data, but we have to have the political will to use it in a way that really works for us going forward. And so it takes courage. It takes courage and political will. I'll share one brief story in my experience. I studied with a brilliant woman in Anchorage, Alaska, named Lydia Selcraig. In 1964, there was a big earthquake, as you might know. It was the most carefully studied earthquake in history, in modern history. There were scientists from all over the world. They reviewed all of the data that came in with regard to the earthquake, and they created the Anchorage Environmental Atlas. And they determined that there was one area of town that was still at risk. Everything else was pretty safe. It was right in the center of town. Underneath the center of town was a sort of clay that turned to jello when the earth shook. So they moved everybody out of that area and thought, they're good, everyone's safe. Unfortunately, they never transferred the deed to a public agency, and it was retained by the people who owned it. And lo and behold, when Wally Hickel retired as Secretary of the Interior, he bought that land. And he built the biggest building in Alaska, in the one area in the town that was determined to be completely unsafe because of its risk of earthquake. So you see, the data has to translate into positive public action, because otherwise, we don't get the benefit of what we're learning from the data. So I really appreciate this recognition and want to accept it on behalf of all the volunteers who go out every month to collect the data we use. Thank you very much.
There you go. Okay. Next, to receive our award for excellence in public management is someone who I consider a friend and a close partner with Metro mayors and in many other occasions with MAPC, but is Mayor Joe Curtatone from the city of Somerville. After taking office in 2004, Somerville Mayor Curtatone has made the innovative use of data at the heart of efforts to improve city management and promote civic engagement. SomerStat is a performance management initiative modeled after programs in New York and Baltimore that uses timely data and regular meetings to drive municipal efficiency and innovation. The city's ResiStat program is an effort to expand this program to city residents through enhanced transparency, civic engagement, and data collection. ResiStat includes data-driven community meetings, an online community forum and email list, and innovative community surveys. As a result of his leadership, the city has won many accolades, including being named the best-run city in Massachusetts by Boston Globe magazine. They've even gone so far as to try to measure the happiness of their residents. So there is no more data-driven mayor in Massachusetts than Mayor Joe Curtatone, and we're pleased to give him this award today.
Well, good afternoon. I am very happy to be here, since we're talking about happiness. First of all, I want to thank Joel Beretta, the MAPC, Northeastern University, and all of you who embrace data to drive change. So I want to tell you a little story and put a little perspective as I listen to Rachel and Chai and a good friend from MassDOT. And it's really inspiring to see the work that's happening around the region in the Commonwealth. I studied strategic management for public purposes, and a great book by EkOngKar, which gave this comparative. If you go back mid-century, there'd be a common scene in the private sector and the public sector, a long line of some sort. Since the RMV is here today, Representative, there'd be that long line at the RMV and perhaps some company. It'd be common and expected to wait a couple of hours for that service. You know, as the decades passed, the private sector really advanced itself and understood the necessity to have accurate, easy customer service, using data to drive decisions for efficiency and performance and results to drive profit. The public sector lagged behind. You know, we're catching up now. When I served for 8 years on the board of Aldermen before I became mayor in Somerville in 2004, and I was amazed. All we could tell you is basic, and we could sort of tell you what we were doing, couldn't tell you really why or justify it with any outcomes or metrics. We could tell you how much we were spending, couldn't tell you how we were spending. or if the results were effective. When I first became mayor in 2004, I campaigned that we're going to bring CityStat to Somerville. I developed a relationship with then Mayor of Baltimore, Martin O'Malley, who's the present governor. People kind of looked at me, what the hell is CityStat, you know? But we committed ourselves to using data on a real-time basis at the core to drive efficiency, gain results, and unlock opportunity. We are not a rich community. Somerville spends the least per capita out of any city in Massachusetts. In fact, any community with a population over 3,000 people, because we know our data, we spend least per capita. So we better be smart. We better be surgical, and we better be strategic. I am blessed that since I took office, I had some smart, innovative people who were willing to be abnormal when they took the job and run with the data. And I want to thank all my, who's here from my Somerset team, past or present, or anybody, thank you very much, because these people drive everything we do. Please give them a round of applause. They're really smart people. But in 2004, I could tell you the departments we started off on, and for a couple of years say, yeah, we use data in these departments today. I'd have a hard time as I was sitting here telling you where we do not utilize data on a real-time basis, from driving operational efficiency to delivering core services and public safety and public works, to raising the achievement standard in our public schools as that discussion continues to heat up in Somerville, to unlocking and identifying opportunities for economic development and progress for every segment of our community, to improving our quality of life and measuring your happiness, your subjective happiness, and how that correlates to overall satisfaction with the city. And what makes it possible in Somerville is not just the people who work around me, it's the community. Somerville's a special place. You know, any neighborhood's so Somerville. It's flexible, it's dynamic, it's diverse, it's funky, it's even freaky. We like to say our freaks are better than yours, and we love it, but they are cerebral, they embrace the data, and they demand it, and they hold me, and I know they'll hold any elected official in the city to that higher level of performance. So I want to thank them, thank all of you for what you do, because you really can drive change, and using the data to drive for positive results is working for us. I'm glad to see it's so common across so many sectors of government. And thank you for this award on behalf of all the people in Somerville. God bless.
And we have one final award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, but I'm going to call Charlotte Kahn, who's the Senior Director at the Boston Indicators Project at the Boston Foundation, to present that award. Charlotte?
Thank you. This is really a sacred honor to be presenting this award. About a little more than a year ago, I started to hear about a wonderful new kind of software that DSNI was using to show all of the networks in that community. And the way I heard it was to be able to really identify networks around every child in that community. And I kept hearing wonderful things. And at one point, the new director of the Boston Opportunity Agenda came into my office. She had just seen a presentation of this, and she was so excited, and she happened to mention the person who had created it, Jeffrey Stamps. Now, I was just stunned that it was Jeff who had created this, because I had known him for about 40 years, because I had known his wife for 50, since I was 13 and she was 14. And so I immediately called Jessica's cell phone and, you know, to say, isn't this amazing? I'm working on this thing called Weave, and you're working on this wonderful thing, and let's show each other what we're doing. So I called them, and they were in their car on the way to DSNI. And so I talked to Jeff and said, you know, how excited I was to hear about this. And he just happened to say, kind of in a cheerful sort of a way almost, that he had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So he spent the last months of his life working tirelessly with DSNI to really build out this software and its use in that community and to make it real, to train people in its use, and did. He died last June in the kind of death that we should all aspire to. And so it's my great honor to present to Jessica a Lifetime Award for Jeff.
Thank you. It's, as you can imagine, extraordinarily moving to, first of all, receive this award from my oldest friend, my oldest living friend. We did meet when we were 13 and 14, and Charlotte has been a tremendously important person to me for my entire life. As I have to say to you, when Jeff and I moved to Boston, guess where we moved? To Somerville, and we really enjoyed it. And from there, our life really took off. And Jeff actually did some very critical, fundamental thinking while we were still in Somerville. I want to explain why I'm standing here wearing a T-shirt. Does everyone see what my T-shirt says? DSNI. Anyone know DSNI here? Today is open house day at DSNI. And I was there earlier to take some food over because there's going to be a big feast, and of course everyone here is invited to it. And they were selling T-shirts, and I said, oh, I'm going over to get the award, and this is all about Jeff and DSNI. And so I put the T-shirt on, even though it's a little undistinguished for this kind of moment. As Charlotte said, on May 5th, 2010, Jeff went to have his annual physical. That was at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he had a diagnosis of stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and by 6 o'clock that day, he was told that he had 3 to possibly 5 months to live. If you know anything about pancreatic cancer, you know that it is absolutely incurable. It's like glioblastoma. There is nothing that they can do except throw a little chemo and a little radiation at it and hope for the best. Jeff accepted his diagnosis instantly. Instead of fighting it and saying, I'll try this and I'll try that crazy thing and go on a fruit fast or whatever was being suggested to us, and there were many crazy things suggested to us. He said, I'm lucky. I know I'm going to die, and I know what kind of time frame I'm operating in, and I have a choice at this point. I can either rebel and be miserable and just, curse the powers that be for what I don't have, or I can say, this is a huge gift. I have a finite amount of time, and I can do what I want to do in these remaining months. So he made a choice. He made a very conscious choice. He wrote a memoir about the choices that he made in facing death, and he decided to work on his greatest invention ever, OrgScope, for the benefit of Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative. What was OrgScope? Jeff believed in data, and he believed that there was objective data about organizations. He believed that you could turn a microscope on organizations and be able to see all the connections, and that from seeing it from diverse perspectives, you would have great ahas about the organization. That seems to me what Weave is. You're allowed to look at things from many, 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 many perspectives, and at a certain point when you do that, there's a huge aha. So Jeff was trying to create ahas about organizations, and that's why he created OrgScope. He did, in the final parts of his life, the final moments of his life, spend his time educating people at DSNI and a network of other practitioners who would be able to take this work further. At that point, we got hooked up. Or right after Jeff died, I guess it was, Charlotte and I had a conversation, and then I met George Grinstein, and we began to talk about what we could do if we put OrgScope together with Weave, using the lens of DSNI. That's our objective now, to make that happen. So that's the next step in OrgScope's development, and I hope that by next Data Day, that we'll be able to show you that integration, and that you'll all be able to take OrgScope, which is now proprietary, have it as open source, and be able to see all of your organizations as well. So with tremendous thanks